Okay, we're here with Amber Martin. We met her yesterday, or like 2 days ago.
Yep.
We're talking real estate at one of the networking events here at Bigger Pockets. So what brings you every year to Bigger Pockets?
Well, this is actually my first Bigger Pockets conference. I've done many real estate conferences, first Bigger Pockets, and I wanted to come just to mainly network. It was not even the sessions, but it was more networking, meeting people, seeing who I can make money with.
Awesome. About to ask, what's been so far your biggest takeaways? Has it been the networking or anything else?
It's been the networking. Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed meeting some of the vendors here, because really it's like just going around and seeing who can do what with me. The goal is to make money, but I want to make somebody else money as well. So who can I partner with? Some of these capital lending companies, what are they doing? What can they offer? How can we structure deals differently together? So yeah, cool. The networking has been the biggest takeaway for sure.
Awesome. And I got to get your perspective the other night on your experience because you've been doing this how many years?
I've been licensed as a broker for 15, but first investment property bought about 19 years ago.
19 years, wow. Yeah, so it's really cool. She's one of the few that have been through like 2008 crash. We're talking about that.
Crash, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'd just love to hear your background. You could share, and if you want to share that story you shared with me about 2008, what you learned from that. I think that's a really cool learning for all of us.
So 2003, my parents didn't own real estate, lived in an apartment, so I was never taught really the value of real estate. It was just something that was kind of, I guess, internally within me. I just knew I wanted to own a home. So when I was 20, I actually bought my first home. And then from there, bought another home, and then was like, okay, market's exploding. I want to invest in real estate as retirement. So my husband and I had my first baby in July, bought my first investment property in Vegas in September.
What year was that?
2003.
2003, okay.
Yeah, so bought my first personal home in 99, first investment property in 2003. So from 2003 through the next couple years, bought single families and multi in Austin, several in Austin, bought single and multi in Charlotte, North Carolina, bought in Phoenix, had a place up in the mountains, more like short term. So through those years, property management was a big struggle. So we took what we were learning on our own from investing, and it's like, okay, people were asking us, friends were asking us here at home, hey, what about this and that and the other? So we're like, let's just get licensed and start a property management company with what we're learning from the out-of-state pros and cons. So we did that. So 2007 got licensed, started a property management company here at home. And then fast forward a couple years, we were investing and doing stuff. Then recession hits. Basically, it was personally, just our personal story is, had 5 little kids at the time when things really started shifting. You don't just start making money day one, right? Yeah. Somebody told me it's going to take you 5 or so years to really feel comfortable making money in your business. So my husband was working at an architectural firm to kind of supplement. Well, so the business hadn't grown enough to supplement his income. So he gets the reduction, ultimately then gets a layoff completely. So we have 5 little kids. We're not cash flowing a lot on the investments because for us it was, okay, we'll take the appreciation, retirement, we're going to hold these things 30 years.
Yeah, so you guys didn't need the cash flow.
We didn't need the cash flow. Yeah, so we were in it for appreciation. So cool, we got that the first couple of years. Then things started shifting. You start, ultimately, properties were losing 50% value. We had about 75% of our tenants stop paying. So here I'm faced with 5 little kids. The business is not built up enough yet to be able to cover our expenses plus all the expenses on our properties. My husband loses his job. He's like, what do we do? It's like, I'm a good person, want to pay my bills, liquidating retirement. Ultimately, we're like, we have to stop the bleeding because either we pay for our tenants to live in our properties for free, they're not paying us rent because they've lost their jobs, or we're going to end up having to sell our personal home. Where do I go with my 5 little kids? So we were like, you know what? We got to just call it. Unfortunately, so we ended up doing short sales and learned a lot from that and lost a ton of money, but ultimately the property management company grew and that was great. I ended up selling it a couple years ago and started a new company focusing on residential or just sales pretty much, and then moved into commercial property management. But through the last 10 years, I guess I've kind of probably been my worst enemy in the sense that I've been fearful of losing a ton of money again, like we did in the last recession. But I think I enjoyed David, hearing him speak in the sense it's like, I got to get over my fear. I got to just do it.
Yeah.
So absolutely. Now, so I have enjoyed this conference, just being around all these investors, all the energy. Okay, now it's like, we're going to do it. And who am I going to do it with?
Very good. I like it.
Yeah.
Cool. Great segue. So I wanted to talk through a specific deal with you, and because a lot of people we work with, they might want to be a turnkey buyer, or they might want to be what I call like our kind of cash buyer, or just somebody who has like the knowledge to put a crew together and to rehab a property and or just manage it and buy it and ultimately own it themselves. So think of 3 buckets. You got an actual cash buyer who can manage it, and their levels of experience, right? So that's your most experienced level. And the middle one would be a turnkey buyer who basically they are going to own the property, they're going to manage it, but everything's going to be kind of ready for them turnkey, right? And then, so they're middle experience. And the least experienced people who want to be completely passive, just invest on a property for us, be the bank, essentially. We give them a first position loan, and they're the bank. They get a really good interest rate, but they're secure. That's the lowest risk, right? But also the least upside for each one. So I'm curious, your perspective on a deal, what are you kind of looking more for? And what are your, because everybody's different, right? But I'd love to get your perspective. Of those 3, where do you fit?
Yeah, I'm having a lot of residential or multifamily and commercial property management experience. I don't mind kind of getting my hands dirty, being super active these next 5 years. Essentially, my goal in the next couple of years is to purchase 100 units. And I out of state, so I'm going to hire a local property manager because I just can't have eyes on everything.
Yep.
So, but I'm going to essentially try to work with my property managers. I don't want to, run their company, but I want to be able to work with people who operated their business like mine, so that we can scale together. So I'm looking more personally. I don't mind being very hands-on these next 5 years, and then I want to be pretty passive. So the goal is to buy 100 unit, go all in, and then have my husband retire. We go off and just visit the grandkids throughout the country.
Perfect. And let the property managers manage it. Yeah.
So the goal is, yes, to hire, we're looking at multiple different states. So I need eyeballs on the ground there locally. And basically my goal is to hire the local property managers and then hire somebody to manage my property managers, so that I can be completely hands-off. So for now, I'm going to be managing my property managers. So yeah, we're definitely taking a very active approach these next couple of years, and then we want to go pretty hands-off.
Awesome. Yeah. So kind of, I'd say you're a blend of the more active, who's an actual cash buyer wanting to do something, to turnkey, or somewhere in the middle. I think it's.
Yeah, I don't necessarily want, I like the value add space, so I don't want to go necessarily buy just completely renovated turnkey places, because I like the.
You have some of the skills that it requires to get there, right?
Well, I do, and yes, I do. So, I don't want to give up appreciation equity to somebody else.
Exactly.
Because I have that experience to be able to do that.
To create it yourself.
Yeah.
Totally got you. Okay, cool. So I'd love to just talk through. Sometimes it's easier to talk through a specific deal. So we have a deal we're working on this week. We actually haven't shared it. So typically we get a deal off market. We'll share it. We'll either keep it or we will share it with our wholesale list or our cash buyers. So this one we actually haven't shared with the cash buyers because I'm like, this is a great deal. I love it. It's so we're under contract for $170,000. The ARV's over 300. It's about 310. So plenty of room, and the rehab on it is going to be around 50 to 60,000. So we'll say all in at 230. ARV is 310. So there's about $80,000 of equity. Can't do the percentage in my head, but I think it's around 70% of the value. So that type of deal, we're actually like, hey, and we were going to use a lender, but the closing's a little bit too quick to take it down. So we're like, hey, why don't we either find a lender who wants to be the bank and just be in a first position, have their money out in, say, 3 to 6 months when we're all done. We'll either sell it or we'll refinance it. So that's kind of one option. The other option we thought about is just selling it to somebody like yourself who has experience to take it down and or JV it to where so I'm just curious where you would land on that type of deal. What would your preference be to kind of take a deal down like that?
Probably the JV.
JV.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Just where we're at right now. I mean, we're looking to build units. We're looking at, it is interesting. I went to the base event last night and people were talking to me more about, why don't you just be the bank? But for us, I think just my mindset right now, and maybe this is, I'm here to learn, so maybe I do need to shift more of a mindset. But for me, it's I like owning units.
Yeah.
So I want to own units. I don't want to just be on the lending side of things. Maybe in 5 years I will, or 10 years. But for now, it's like, okay, I want the meat.
You know how to do it, and you want the upside. That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. Okay, so let's dive back into that deal. So say that deal we just shared again. To recap, 170K purchase, 50K rehab, and then ARV of 310. How would you start? And so this is a new market for you, right? This property's in Wyoming. You've never been there. If you were going to take down that deal, how would you underwrite it? Or what would the timeline look like? Is that something you'd be like, yeah, I know, or Brandon, we met like 3 days ago. I know the operator. I'd be like, yeah, let's jump in. Or what's your due diligence and underwriting look like for a deal like that?
Well, I think I'm looking at just having negative experiences, primarily in North Carolina before. I was too trusting of people. I'm a very, very loyal person, very trusting person. But I think I learned from duplex that I bought in North Carolina and maybe too trusting. So for me, I'm more like, okay, trust and verify, or trust but verify. So I want to work with very trustworthy people, but trust takes time to build, right? So if you're talking about this deal, it's like, okay, you're telling me this info. I may go out and, verify, make a couple calls to some brokers up there, and say, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? What is this numbers? What are these rents? What do you think about, So probably a call around. I'm going to want to know just, statistics on the community itself. Is population growing? Are businesses starting there? Kind of just what are the local numbers doing? Everyone talks about the big cities and what's going on there. I don't mind the smaller cities. I think there's potentially more opportunities there.
Great.
So I like talking about these little markets. But again, I'm just going to trust but verify.
Trust but verify.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. So trust. Okay. And then typically, how do you underwrite? How fast do you typically underwrite a deal? Knowing in real estate, deals, if they're good, they typically go fast. So what's your typical timeline to underwrite to where you'd be ready to pull the trigger on something?
I can move within hours.
Yeah. I like it.
If it's the right, especially if it's a partner I've worked with before, it's like, you're in it, I'm in it, we've done stuff before, or, there's just this a trust factor. A good trust base. You bring something to me, let's do it. I'll sign in an hour. Let's get this going. But first it is going to be, okay, let's look at the financials. I'm going to run them. I'm pretty conservative on my numbers, and I'm kind of realizing I have to probably be a little less conservative. I think I'm super conservative because I got crushed in the last recession.
Yep.
So I'm my own worst enemy. I know I'm stuck in analysis paralysis right now on a lot of things, so I know I'm going to have to loosen up. So you said, let's look at the numbers, and if it makes sense, let's do it. I know I am the kind of person where once I get going, which is why I'm researching different markets, because you bring me a deal today, let's do it. You bring me a deal next week, let's do it. Next week, let's do it. Let's just grow this thing. So I'm not like, oh, let me think about it for a month or two or whatever. Let's do it.
That's a great way to sum it up, because we're looking for more people like Amber who have that confidence and know it's a deal and want to move quick on it.
Because time is money. So.
Exactly, because I think a lot of times we struggle with people who don't know how to recognize that deal and do have the paralysis analysis and won't pull the trigger. But hey, if you are one of those people who are ready to make a step and ready to pull the trigger and ready to just ultimately catch that wave, right? We listened to a presentation yesterday about catching the wave, and properties not going to wait and not take action and wait 15 years and see what home prices do. Take a step today, step to grow your portfolio. If you're interested, reach out. Amber, thanks a lot. This is good stuff.
Thank you.